Everything that I knew about aerodynamics was completely wrong, and I think that's why our race car has been slow the past few years. So today we're gonna do some experiments, see if we can figure out what the airflow is doing around the car, and maybe by the end of today, we'll all learn something new. So this is our open road racing car. It's a 1994 Chevy Camaro that has only one purpose in life, and that is to travel on a closed highway through the mountains of West Texas as fast as humanly possible. But for some reason, no matter what we do to this car, we can't get it to go much past 180 miles per hour. It's like it hits a brick wall at that speed. So I read an aerodynamics book, and it's 500 pages long, but it's got contributions from aerodynamicists that are on Formula One teams, Porsche, Tesla. Main thing is it's got pictures too, so even an idiot like me can understand it. And the amount of things I've learned from this book is crazy. Like for example, here at the back of the car, this curved surface on the bumper here and this curved surface on the deck lid. Did you guys know that that's bad? Well, I sure didn't, and I wish someone would have told us the past 10 years, so I'll attempt to explain why later on. So first, let's look at some data. So the Big Bend open road race is 120 miles long. They shut Highway 285 down, and the goal is to go as fast as you can for that 120 miles. So 15 years ago when we first started, the fastest we could do that 120 miles was in 52 minutes. And as Jeff and I got better at racing the car, we worked on the car. In 2018, we'd gotten that time down to 45 minutes and 55 seconds. And then ever since then, we've made the car worse. It's actually gotten slower. I've got the GPS data for the past 3 races, so we've got 60,000 data points to look at. The best place to see how the aerodynamics affect us is this 4-mile straightaway. So you come out of this turn back here at around 130 miles an hour, and then it's full throttle for almost 4 full miles. In 2018, by the end of this straightaway, we were maxed out at 180.1 miles an hour. And then in 2019, they got a picture of us coming through one of the turns here. And you can see on the car, for this year, we modified the nose a little bit to get us more air cooling to the radiator. But we messed up the hood, so you can see the hood was peeling up here at speed. So all this drag meant that at the end of that same straightaway, we were only able to do 176 miles an hour. So we lost over 3 miles an hour from the hood peeling up here and us opening the radiator up a little bit at the front. So after that fiasco, we tore the nose off of the front. We put a new nose on the front of the race car with a small radiator opening. We also added a bunch of horsepower to the car. So we did ported heads, a big cam, we ported the supercharger out. And after all of that, on the same straightaway, we got up to 183 miles an hour. So 3 miles an hour for all of that work. So clearly, we don't know what we're doing. To put that in perspective, the people we race against, they're doing over 200 miles an hour on the same road. There's a Nissan GTR doing over 220. So us at 180, you can see we're way off the mark. There's 3 types of testing we're going to do on the car today. 1 is called tufting, 2 is pressure testing, and then 3 is flow visibility paint testing. We're going to start with tufting, and I've already started on the hood here. The idea is we're going to cut a bunch of 3-inch pieces of yarn, tape them to the entire car, and this will help us see the airflow as we drive down the road. There's 3 types of airflow that we're going to try to search for. The first type of airflow we're going to look for is laminar airflow, and that's if the air is going perfectly straight across the body of the car. All of our pieces of yarn should be pointing the same direction, and they shouldn't be whipping around very much. That's the best kind of airflow. The other kind of airflow we can get is turbulent airflow. So if we see our pieces of yarn whipping around a decent amount, that's turbulent airflow. It's not necessarily bad. Turbulent airflow can help the air stick to the car body when it has abrupt changes on it. Turbulent airflow is why there's dimples in golf balls. So it helps the air stick to the golf ball around to the backside so there's a smaller wake. And the third type of airflow is separated airflow. And that's when something abrupt happens so bad that the air detaches from the body of the car. And that would show up as our pieces of yarn whipping around all kinds of different directions. And if we see that, that's bad, because that means there's a vacuum drag operating on that piece of the car. So you really want the air attached to the car the entire time if you can. And with this hunk of crap, there's no way. So this one's pretty simple. All you need is some painter's tape or masking tape. And that book did have a pretty good tip in it. So you're gonna take your 2 fingers, pull them out from where the sun doesn't shine, wrap them with the yarn, and then you just cut right through the middle over there. Don't cut your finger. And then ta-da, you get a little bundle of 3-inch pieces of yarn ready to go. I was sitting there cutting them one at a time like an idiot, so that's a pretty good tip. So I've just been doing long stretches of tape, and I'm doing these, I don't know, maybe every 4 inches or so. But up here at the front of the car is where I'm most interested on what the air is doing, because this is what we've changed the most over the years and what seems to make the biggest difference. So as I spend the next 5 hours putting all this yarn on, I'm gonna tell you guys about different parts of the car that I think might be interesting. Like one, these are our cheesy headlight covers here. Let's see if y'all can see that. See that giant gap? It's like a 1-inch gap there. That's probably not good. Here's another spot that I think will be interesting. The book says up to 30% of the drag on a car can come from the wheels and tires, and ours stick out so much that it looks like the airflow around the front bumper is just gonna ram into the tread on the tires, and then past the tires here, I bet you the airflow is detached through this area. So it'll be interesting to see what the yarn does past the front wheel here. The back tires stick out too much too, so I'm sure airflow is just skipping around, not touching the back bumper at all. To get around that, like this Jaguar, this is pretty cool. It's got air curtains, so air comes into the front bumper, and there's a slot right in front of the front wheels, and this kind of shows with the air curtains, it makes basically a curtain of air across the wheel. So the air behind the wheel is pretty much attached still, so this yarn looks pretty good. And then they plugged the air curtain, and with it plugged, you can see the yarn's going all over the place. So that's pretty cool. Maybe one day we could do something like that. Well, we're getting there. There's nothing fast about taping 500 pieces of yarn on the car. All right, this area I think is gonna be interesting. So we ripped the windows out of the doors so that we could put these NASCAR style door bars in here as part of the roll cage. So there's no room for the window motor and that kind of stuff in here anymore. You know, NASCAR Cup cars don't have windows either, but it looks like the shape of the body guides the air past the opening. That's probably not gonna happen here. So this is probably gonna be a disaster. And then I'll be curious to see if the airflow reattaches here, so it'll be interesting to see. All right, I finally made it to the back of the car with all this yarn. So earlier I teased the idea that it's bad to have curved surfaces at the back of the car, like the bumper here and on the deck lid. The reason that is, they say as the air is moving along the surface of the car, it has to break free of the car at some point. And if the area is curved like this, the air tries to hang on and then it finally rips off the car in a chaotic fashion, which leaves a lot of drag. If you have a clean edge, the air can break free easier, less drag, they say. So if you look at new cars now, you'll start to see this everywhere, like this clean edge on the back bumper. You look at this Honda Civic, it's got a little side spoiler to help the air break free. They said they did a test where they had a car that had curved surfaces like this. They added some clean edges along the back, and they got a 3% reduction in drag. And that might be worth a couple miles an hour on this car, so you know, that'd be free speed. All right, so here's how the car looks with 500 something pieces of yarn taped to it. So this is everything we need to do the tuft testing. Now we're gonna move on for the second test that we'll do is pressure testing. I'm not sure if this one's gonna work or not. This is something new I've never heard of before. With pressure testing, the idea is we're gonna take multiple pressure readings along the top and the bottom of the car, and you can get a rough estimate by the surface area if the car's making lift or downforce. To do that, we need a couple things. One are some pressure testing patches that we stick on the car everywhere. A company in Europe makes these. I couldn't find any here in the US, so what I did, I drew up in Fusion 360 and 3D printed a bunch of plastic ones on my own here. There's a channel here that's 40 thousandths wide, and that lets you stick this tiny brass or stainless steel tubing into it, and then there's a 40 thousandths hole right here that lets the air pressure come in and through the tubing. Okay, and then we need a really sensitive gauge, so they recommend this Magna Helix gauge. It goes up to 2 inches of of water, which is the same as 0.7 PSI. Really sensitive gauge. I've got this silicone hose hooked up to the back of the gauge. You can just barely blow on it, like that, and that moves the gauge. Okay, but this gauge also has a second port. You can see that second hose coming out of there. Because you need a reference air pressure, you need to know the pressure in the atmosphere. And they say you can't just measure it from inside the car here, because you know you get that buffeting inside the car, air pressure when you're going. So you need to use a pitot tube, like they use on airplanes. So here's my solution for this. I've got the triple suction cup deal that we use for hanging cameras off of stuff. It's got a 1/4 inch thread on it for your GoPros and junk like that. And they say you need to have it about 20, 30 inches away from the hood, because you want the air to be just unaffected by the car. Now, pitot tubes can have a hole in the front for measuring the airspeed. Okay, so that's the air ramming right into the front of the thing. Or they have holes on the side here. These are the static ports, and that's what we care about. So the air moving past this, it's not gonna generate a lot of pressure. They're saying we should be able to drive normal highway speed or even like 40, 50 miles an hour and get good enough readings to know what the air pressure is doing around the car. Because one thing I didn't know until this book is that like 99% of road cars, even sports cars, all make lift at speed. I thought most of the sports cars at least would make some kind of downforce, but pick your favorite car. He's got a lot of examples in the back of the book. They probably all make lift. Like the Corvette makes lift in the front, lift in the rear. All your different Porsches, they all make lift, except this one here, the GT3 RS, does make downforce only in the rear, but it's got a wing on the back. The NSX does make downforce front and rear, so not all cars make lift. The Ford GT, it makes downforce in the front, a little lift in the rear though. So we've got 11 of these patches taped onto the car, and I did not have enough silicone tubing to run all 11 into the cab up to the gauge. So I kind of brought them to some centralized spots here. I've got a piece of brake tubing, so we can test one pressure patch, get the readings. We'll unhook, we'll splice it in, get the next patch reading, then the next one, then the next one. So we'll have to stop the car a few times. I just realized I need to label all of these. I have no idea which one goes to what. That's probably important, so. So that takes care of everything we need to do the pressure testing. So the last test we're gonna get set up for is flow visibility paint testing. So you might have seen this in Formula One. What they do is they take an oily, bright colored paint, they'll spray it on the car, they'll drive it around, and the paint really shows the airflow and it dries enough that you can stop the car and look at it. A lot of people say you can use a paraffin oil and chalk. So I got this lamp oil, it says it's paraffin oil, so hopefully that works. And then this is like a chalk kit for parties and gender reveals, you know, so people stick like this blue chalk in a balloon if you're having a boy, or they got pink if you're having a girl, and I think the Camaro green will probably show up the best, so we'll try that out. And the main spots I want to try to use that is like we talked about on maybe the side here, so we can see where the air separates off the curved edges of the back. But where I really want to use that flow visibility paint is on the rear diffuser back here, because we made this up out of thin air, no idea if it actually works or not. The way it's supposed to work is the Venturi effect. So air flowing under the car gets to the front of the diffuser here, and these channels grow in volume, and that speeds the airflow up at the front of the diffuser here. And the faster air means lower air pressure, that pulls the car down. The former aerodynamicist for Ferrari F1, he's got a lot of good reading on these, and he's got a bunch of good flow visibility paint patterns that we can compare to, see if we get anywhere close to having a working diffuser, which I doubt we do. All right, you ready to mix this up and see what we can come up with? All right, let's get a little lamp oil in here. Probably good enough, I would think. And our green chalk, okay. I wonder if I should add some yellow in there, make it a little brighter. Nice. Yeah, that's brightening it up a little bit, I think. Isn't it? Okay, the idea is supposed to be we can spray this on the car and then drive it, and this lamp oil dries slowly, so it'll move along the car and then eventually dry. What's it gonna look like though? It's not really that bright. Let's try it down here on the diffuser. Let's blow some air on this, see what it does. That sucks. How do the Formula One guys get that bright fluorescent chalk color out of this stuff? I don't get it. What are they using? You can't even see it. All right, our formula sucks. Let's try something different. We're trying pink, and I mixed it about as thick as I can get it. Okay, that's a little better. Maybe. You can see it. That might actually work. It's not great. The last thing I've been working on that it needed is lights, so we can actually go drive this thing around. It's never had turn signals before, so I got on Amazon and I found a universal turn signal switch. It's like meant for golf carts, but I got it wired in here, and then I've got some cheap like golf cart LED turn signals here. And then in the rear, I was able to get LED bulbs for the original factory Camaro light housings. And it is actually insured and it is registered. It's got an antique license plate because this is a 30-year-old car, so we're legal to drive now. All right, guys, Jeff showed up. Jeff is the co-pilot for this race team. So he's always in the passenger seat over there, but it's been 4 years. So this should be interesting. See if he's still fit in the seat.
Yeah, if I can get in and out, will be a test.
And we're gonna take Jeff's car as the camera car. So his old WRX, which is actually not even legal because he hasn't registered it in 8 years.
Dude, don't call that out on the internet.
Okay, don't call it
out
out on
the FBI showing up at my door.
The FBI? We made it 10 miles down the road to this abandoned access road. It's 2 miles long. We rolled over 700 miles too on the race car, so that's pretty good. After 6 years.
Finally broken in.
Finally broken in. All right, so we're gonna start with the Tuft testing first. So Jeff's gonna camera car next to me. We're gonna make passes up and down the road and see what the airflow's doing, so let's go. All right, guys, we made it back to the shop. We're trying to analyze what all we saw out there on the road. So behind the front wheels, pretty bad?
Pretty bad. Right in here, in the middle of the door was kind of the only place that was solid.
They started to reattach somewhere in the door here. Behind the back wheel is a disaster zone, it looks like, which makes sense. The wheels stick out. The window area here, terrible, right? So we got to figure something out for windows or maybe partial windows here, because the air behind it is all a disaster zone as well. So yeah, from the video, it looks like the air is staying somewhat attached down the back window, but maybe not that great up in here. This is definitely not attached very good over here on the sides, but. So we're done with our tough testing. Now we're gonna do the pressure testing. All right, Jeff's gonna drive. You remember how to drive?
I'm so focused, man. It's all I'm ready to do.
This seat really wasn't meant for you. You're a little too tall for that, but that's okay. I'm gonna ride over here and take all the readings. We've got our pitot tube on to measure the static pressure. I'm gonna sit over here, move all the tubes around, and do all the pressure readings. We're gonna see if this actually works. Pressure testing. For comparison, we'll look at this Tesla here. So, okay, all of the pressure sensors were negative. In other words, all the pressure sensors on the top of the car are generating lift, which is bad. However, the ones on the bottom of the car are also generating negative pressure, which is pulling the car down. The big one we wanted to see is our diffuser making any downforce at all? And we've got 0.25, so what's that come out to?
62.21.
62, not as good as a Tesla rear diffuser, so we might have some work to do there. All right, so we made it through the Tuft testing, the pressure testing, which was interesting. Now we're gonna try the last one, the flow visibility paint testing. I'm gonna spray it onto the car and give Jeff the thumbs up. He's gonna take off.
Let's go.
We don't know what speed we need to do, but.
I'll err on the side of 100.
Hold on. A disaster. Spray bottle clogged up. The old Windex bottle that worked in the shop, it decided to stop working. So I just poured it all over the car. It'd be interesting to see what it looks like when it gets back. I don't know. Also, he launched off the two-step, shot me with rocks, so that was pretty cool. It sounds good though. Okay, he's back. Huh? That did not do a thing. Well, it did a little bit.
Problem is, number one, I ham-footed it, dumped the clutch and sprayed rocks all over the place.
Yeah, that's fine.
So like if we want to do it again,
no, we're out of flow viz, man. We're out.
Did you say we're out?
Yeah, I had to dump the bottle because it wouldn't spray, and it didn't even work.
Oh no.
Okay, let's see what we got. Okay, so you can see where I poured it.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's where it started.
Did you pour it over here or did it move over here?
I poured it up here too.
Oh, okay.
You can see the air, it kind of breaks right here on this sharpish edge. Some of it makes it over to here. It doesn't make it to this panel.
It looks like on the bottom too, it's kind of just crap. Like really,
Yeah.
It must be real turbulent.
Must be really turbulent in here. You're an F1 fan, so you're familiar with the FlowViz, what it's supposed to look like?
We've talked about FlowViz for years. We've wanted to do this for years because we know this is the key, right? There's a reason that they do it in Formula One.
Right. Yeah. If any of you guys out there have any ideas on the formula for flow visibility paint besides paraffin wax and chalk, let us know. I think we just need to go to the wind tunnel though.
Yeah.
It'd be nice. Some of you might have seen Cletus McFarland. He took his car to the wind tunnel. It's in North Carolina. I think that's one of the only ones in the United States. It's 1,000 miles away. It might be worth it one day to make the trip out there and see how bad the car is.
Do you have a wind tunnel? Let us know in the comments.
All right, next video on the race car, we're gonna go to a dyno, see how much horsepower the thing actually makes. If you guys wanna see that, hit the old subscribe button. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us as always. We'll see y'all next time.